45, and our project was about controlling the transport of people on muddy trails at high fire for minimizing soil degradation. Introducing you the team, I'm Nusrat Norin.
I'm Shusha.
I'm Mariella Barrico.
I'm Alvin Virya.
I'm Ai Wei Wong, or you can just call me Ivy, the non-poisonous.
I'm Mehmet Kurşunlu.
In today's presentation, we'll be presenting you with an overview of our completed project and our final design. As you can see, each of us will be talking about different aspects of the design and hopefully convince you that it's the best design we could have come up with in the time span possible. We'll begin with the project requirements, followed by our solution, GeoSolution. Wait for it. Then we'll talk about how our design meets the requirements, followed by how it meets the human factors. Then we'll talk about implementation requirements, installation, and preliminary social impact, and next steps. I'll begin the presentation with the problem, so that to give you a better understanding of the design. So before that, to give a little background, how many of you have been to Haifa before? Great. It's a great place, Toronto's largest park, centrally located, home to rare plants, especially black oak savanna that once covered the whole of southern Ontario. Now it's like on the verge of extinction. So our client company, not a company, it's a community, High Park Nature Center, they're working for the preservation and promoting awareness for High Park Nature Center. And at the beginning of the semester, we were asked to find a solution for one of the problems that's causing a problem for recreational facilities, and that was the mud problem. It doesn't look that same. So obviously we're not solving the problem of the whole 400-acre High Park. We are scoping in a 200-meter square trail behind High Park Nature Center in red, as you can see. So what was the problem? And I'll repeat the same things that Ms. Pralov had said us, and she's sitting right there. She had told us this at the very beginning of in our first plan meeting, that during spring, as snow melts and it rains, the soil gets muddy, obviously. Then, as people walk on it, they actually apply excessive stress on it, and the soil compacts even more. I hope you can understand what soil compaction means. So it actually decreases soil porosity and water permeability, and the soil keeps on getting muddier and muddier. But that's not the problem actually. The problem arises when, in order to avoid that mud, people start working around it. And on that very soil that bears the roots of the rare plants, including black oak savanna that we want to preserve, they extend the mud, resulting in poor growth of rare plant species. So there's a need of a system that keeps people on the trail, protects the soil from further degradation, and that's exactly the function of our project. As we work towards our project, we realized that we needed certain objectives, for the best design possible. We realized that our design needs to be safe. That was our primary objective. It should go by all standards, should not introduce any risk of injury. It had to be accessible for hikers, children, wheelchairs. It had to be portable, as a request from Ms. Krolov, so that it's easy to install and remove. It had to be natural looking. It had to be sustainable, because it's our very favorite High Park Nature Center, High Park. We want to conserve this place. And it had to be durable, last at least 15 years. So as we work towards this project, and we compared our designs according to these objectives, we think we found the design that's optimally, to our surprise, it meets all the objectives in the best possible ways. So what did we find? I'll let my colleague Mehmet Kurşunlu to talk about our GeoSolution. It's GeoSolution.
Thank you, Nusrat. Now I'm going to talk about our design, GeoSolution, and basically this is our final design. This is the 3D modeling of the final design. The design consists of three main components: geotextile, geocells, and aggregates. Let's start with the geotextile. Geotextile is polypropylene fabric with high tensile strength, and it is completely waterproof. And it can spread the force from one single point to a greater area. In other words, it reduces excessive stress applied on the soil. And as a result, it reduces soil erosion. And similar to cuticle layer structure, which is waterproof, as you can see in the picture, it allows water to flow with minimum soil contact, and hence it prevents mud formation. Specifications of the geotextile that we have used in our design are listed in the table. It has a width of 2 meters and thickness of 3 millimeters. And let's look at the next components, geocells. Geocells are a series of plastic strips bonded together to make a honeycomb structure. It provides reinforcement over weak and unstable soils by spreading the force over a larger area. The cells that are filled by draining and covering aggregate help to drain water, and geocells hold the aggregate together and prevents them from spreading as honeycomb structure does. And it also has holes in its walls that will allow a continuous passage of water, and it will prevent water accumulation at any area. The geocells that we have used in the design have the dimensions of 244 millimeters by 203 millimeters and depth of 75 millimeters, which is effective in severe soil conditions. Let's look at the aggregates. Aggregate chosen for this design is a mixture of round shingles with diameter of 6 millimeters to 10 millimeters and wood chips for their draining ability and natural appearance. So, how does the design work actually? Let's look at it step by step. The first step, geotextile is placed on the soil to distribute loads over a larger area and prevent direct human-soil interaction. And the second step, geocells are placed on the geotextile to stabilize the soil and hold the aggregate together. And the third step, geocells are filled with aggregate, which is a mixture of shingles and wood chips. When water is present, it goes through the aggregate first until it reaches the geotextile layer. Since the geotextile is waterproof, it diverts the water to slope sides. And as a result, it prevents mud formation and reduces soil erosion. And let me pass it to my colleague Mariana Albrico.
Thank you, Mehmet. So as Mehmet has mentioned, how our design works. Mehmet has mentioned how our design works, but as the saying goes, there's more to this than meets the eye. The geo solution is not just designed for the rationales previously mentioned by my colleagues. It is also specifically structured to meet the project objectives. The first being safety. So a safety factor of 2.5 is considered to determine the specifications and dimensions of our design, as you can see on these figures above. These specifications allow the support of a maximum load of about 510 kilograms per meter square, which is about 67 people in 1 meter square area. Also, round shingles and wood chips are used to prevent cuts by sharp edges, like for example when we use gravel. So it also provides friction to prevent slippage. The design is also structured to meet the accessibility and fulfill the City of Toronto's accessibility guidelines, in which the width of the pathway should be greater than about 1.5 meters. The geo solution is 2 meters wide and allows at least 2 people to walk on the pathway at the same time. The inspectability and maintainability of the design is also sustained, since the geo solution only needs routine visual examination. The cost is also met, since the materials used can be found easily And the total cost of the design is about $16 per square meter, which meets our objective, which is $25 per square meter. The geo solution is also specifically designed to be sustainable. Since the design components are made from geocells, geotextile, and shingles, which are recyclable, and it's also made from wood chips that are biodegradable, which overall makes the geo solution highly sustainable. Lastly, the geo solution is especially designed for durability since it is made to last for 15 years. Like what I previously mentioned, there is more to this than meets the eye. I have just mentioned how our design meets the project requirements, but our design is also structured to meet the human factors, which will be discussed by my colleague Alvin Liria.
Thank you, Marion. Okay, so one important question is why should we consider about the human factor in our design? The fact that our design is designed for the visitors of Hyde Park, which of course mainly human, we have to consider this human factor extensively. When we consider about human factor, we have this human tech ladder, which help us to consider which part of the design that we have to fit in. However, in this presentation, we will only focus more on the physical, psychological, and organizational. For the physical level, where we deal with the human capability, we have the current path right now, where some part of the trails have a steep slope. So in order to decrease the slope that we have in the trails, what we can do is stack the geocells as we can see in the slides. So this will help people to walk on the slope that exists in the trail right now. Also, because children, strollers, and wheelchair are part of the visitors of Hyde Park, the design that we have right now is level to the ground level. So it will help the accessibility for them. And also, as for the client request, that the design itself should be able to set up by children. So we pick the best possible design that easy to set up by children. And because children have a very low capability on lifting weights, so we choose the best, the most likely design, which mainly made of plastic. And also for the psychological, which deals with human perception, we have to choose the aggregate for our design. And we found out that gravel is one of the best aggregate that we can use. However, as my colleague Mario has mentioned before, walking on gravel could create cuts on people. And also it feels uncomfortable to walk on gravel. So we choose a softer aggregate, which is wood chips. Although there's trade-off between the function and the comfort level, so we have to introduce shingles to accommodate the trade-off. The shingles that we choose is about 6 to 10 millimeters in diameter, which prevent children to play with the aggregate that we have. And also, the most important part, as the design is used to distinguish the path and the surrounding to prevent people walking off the path. So we have chosen the aggregate that will distinguish the trails and the surrounding, as we can see in the slides. For the organizational level, there's some modification that's required in Hyde Park Nature Center, especially in budgeting and staff. And this will be explained by my colleague Chu Chao.
Okay, thank you, Alvin. So now you know how the design meets the project requirements, so how do we implement it? So first we take into consideration labor. So installation of the design is pretty straightforward. What I mean by this is, if you follow this sequence, first you lay down the geotextile, then you lay down the geocell, and then you lay down the aggregate. it's pretty easy and therefore doesn't require skilled labor. So volunteers will do. But we do recommend hiring a professional to oversee the installation of this design, as a properly installed design maximizes its effectiveness. So now we consider labor, we consider material. As Mehmet previously mentioned, there are 4 main components of the design: geocell, geotextile, ground shingles, and wood chips. Now the total cost we considered for the maximum our client mentioned was 200 meters squared. But since the client didn't know how large an area to cover, we also listed cost per meter squared and per ton. So you can give flexibility and knowledge of how much each component will cost. The equipment used to install this design is pretty simple. All you need is a shovel to load the aggregate, scissors to cut the geotextile, and a bow rake, which is optional, to smooth the aggregate. And that's how it looks like, if you don't know what it looks like. Installation of the design. So first, you have to clear the area of debris, make sure the surface is flat before laying down the geotextile, which we do next. After laying down the geotextile, we start laying down the geocell. To lay down the geocell, we stake one end of the geocell with at least 5 stakes. And then you pull the rest of the geocell until the desired width is reached. After the geocell is laid, then you can load the aggregate. So the total cost of the design is around $2,500, which is way below our objective, which was $5,000. So things to keep in mind, it's a municipal permit if it applies to this design, which is $3.85 per square meter, and workers' compensation in the event of injury, which the client might have to pay. So I'll pass it on to Ivy, who will be talking about social impact.
Thank you, John. Hi, I'm Ivy, and I'll be talking about the last aspect of this design, which is how it creates significant social impacts, especially since it relates to Hyde Park, the city's most conserved and beautiful park, having thousands of visitors each year. Well, we have worked to enhance all the possible potential social impacts and trying our best to reduce negative ones. When this design is implemented, there is no doubt that the access into the park from the Nature Center office will be greatly improved. This means that the children will be safe playing around the park, parents will need to worry less, and schools will be encouraged to undertake more student-based activities. These are great initiatives to expose the children to nature. This strong bond with nature at a young age can increase their interest about conserving and preserving the environment, and for them to realize how important it is, the relationship between man and nature. Therefore, a stronger natural conservation community will be built to fight against the challenges of urbanization. Improved access also means the increase of visitors and recreational activities, and that means that the park may need to have more spots for picnic places and hold larger social events and gatherings, including charities and kids runs. Hyde Park, along with these events, will be brought to media, general public, and government's attention. However, as a result in the increase of the human usage of the park, there is a possibility of chopping down trees to accommodate that increase. And since this brings about negative consequences on natural biodiversity, it might lead to environmentalists taking actions, which is the negative social impact of our design here. Well, I think it is time for me to sum up the evening's presentation. Our design, which is the geosolution design system, combines geocells, geotextiles, and aggregates. It meets all the functions, objectives, and constraints of the project based on this developer's request. The goals of these objectives were met by conducting thorough research on respective fields of study and collaborative teamwork. The important aim of this project is to control the transport of people on the trail, to minimize soil degradation and provide a more accessible walkway of which users would enjoy and appreciate the beauty of Hyde Park. It is designed at ground level and covered with wood chips to enhance accessibility, reduce slippage, and look natural. The geosolution addresses human interactions through the use of human factors and design principles. It is also economically well considered and environmentally safe as being implemented. And lastly, the design also concerns about the society and what social impacts that it will bring. Well, after this presentation, if Ms. Krylov is interested in taking the project to the next phase, the report will need a formal review from the professional engineer before the actual implementation of the project. And that marks the end of our final presentation. Thank you all of you for listening, and we hope that you have enjoyed the presentation. Do feel free to ask us any questions you may have, and once again, thank you.
Questions?
Yeah.
Congratulations, that was great. I'm really impressed. I really feel like it did meet a lot of all the requirements that I gave you. I wonder if in your research you found any examples of specific other parks or places that are using this kind of the geosolution technologies.
We have actually added up a lot of stuff, like some parks use geotextile just, and some parks just use the geocells, some use them both, some use aggregates like gravels. We haven't found, like there were a mixture, and this is off the shelf design. We took it out, we thought it was the best possible design for High Park, so we chose it.
Okay.
While we were doing research, the geocells, were not used in Canada, but it's mostly used in the States. So they use it in equestrian places, like where they have like horses or cows and stuff, and they use it in some parks in the U.S. too. So yeah.
Do you know if there's anywhere in Canada to purchase like the geocells, or would it have to be through the States probably?
In our FBS document, which is with you, we enclosed like a list. There's a table of manufacturers in Canada that actually produces, and also in the States, and you can contact them.
Thanks.
Do you think like the wood chips would be like too soft for a wheelchair?
That's why we have shingles.
Yeah.
Actually, we combine the shingles with wood chips because shingles are good material for draining the water. But by itself, it looks not that natural in the environment. And we said we can use another thing which looks like, which fits the in the area.
So it's only the last layer?
Yeah, it is just we call it covering aggregate. It is just covering the whole system. It looks natural, but under the wood chips, the system is working.
Any more questions?
Great presentation. I learned something.
There's a question. Yes.
Oh yes. I was just wondering, would you say your design is portable?
Yeah, it is. It can be temporarily installed, and it can be temporary, it can be permanent. You just need to pull on as you have seen, pull out the geotextile, and the geocells, you can find geocells in stock. So if you want to remove it, just remove it and then put it somewhere in a storage. And then if you want it back, you put it back again.
Okay, thank you very, very much.